Hey everybody, welcome to Impossible Coin. Rocky.
Yes.
Our format is different this week.
Is that why the doc looks funny?
It's why the doc looks funny. Tegan, our format is different this week. It's why the doc looks funny.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I had concerns.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm glad I've allayed them. We have a guest. Dave Lang.
Hello, everyone. How you doing?
We're going to talk about some stuff today. We're going to primarily focus on Iron Galaxy's new game, Extinction. We're going to also hit some other hot topics, including some other IG stuff, a little bit of travel, hopefully a little bit of Iron Galaxy's other work. But before we get to any of that, I have a burning question for you, sir.
Shoot, anything.
Okay. Twice in the last year on your podcast, you have said there are no S-tier restaurants in Phoenix. Come on, man. What gives?
So where's everyone from, just so I know who I'm talking to here? Where does everyone live on this podcast?
I live somewhere in the Midland of Ohio.
Okay.
So I'm way off in the wrong area.
I'm in the most west Texas that you could possibly be.
Okay.
And I'm in Phoenix.
So I'm only talking to you here. So Phoenix is, admittedly, I have not tried every single restaurant in Phoenix. I'll be the first to admit that. I've not tried some of the more fabled things. All I can say definitively is this. When I'm in town and I hit up, like Open Table, or I hit up Travel Advisor, or I hit up something like, hey, what's good here? It's not that it's bad by any stretch. There is good food in Phoenix. It's just not big. Like, I expect a city that big to have typically amazing food, and I have not found it yet if it's there. So please educate me. Tell me what I should try next time I'm in Phoenix, because I have not found it yet on my own.
Okay. I would probably say, safe places to start would be Nobu at Teeter House.
There's the Nobu there?
It is a different Nobu. This is Chef Nobu Fukada. He has 2 James Beard Awards under his belt and does an absolutely fantastic omakase. Really just cool experience. I'm not going to be like every other person who is trying to peddle Phoenix restaurants and tell you to go to Pizzeria Bianco because, dude, you live in Chicago. Telling you to eat pizza outside of that town is just dumb. What
kind of pizza is it?
It's more of like a traditional New York style crust, so it's not like deep dish action.
Because that is one thing we are we do have pretty good thin pizza here, but it's not New York style. There's actually a really good place. You ever heard of New Haven style pizza?
Yeah.
So there's a really good place kind of by the office it's called Peace that does a New Haven style. And I think that's probably the best thin crust in the city, but we are wanting for a nice big huge pepperoni slice that you fold in half and stuff in your face. We are missing some of that.
Barrio does some really ridiculous. Bianco does some really ridiculous farm to table stuff with their ingredients. They maintain an herb garden. They grow some of their tomatoes on site. So if you want a fresh taste, they definitely have that going. For Mexican food in town, I can't recommend Barrio Cafe enough.
Okay.
Absolutely extraordinary. Chef Silvana does really good work. Also fantastic deep tequila selection. Something like 220 odd tequilas. And some of the añejo pluses that are just
do they have
super killer.
Do they do tequila flights or tastings or anything like that?
Absolutely, yeah. They have a couple of really good tequila flights.
Yeah, it sounds like a place I would like. In case of people who don't know, the reason I'm in Phoenix occasionally is my parents live in Surprise, Arizona. They're one of the 20 million people that retired in Surprise. And so I'm out there maybe at least once a year, probably a couple times. And I usually make it in the city just for something, take my dad to a Phoenix Suns game or whatever. So next time I'm doing something like that, I will check out at least one of those places and report back.
Yeah, no, I tell you, Surprise is mainly strip malls and golf carts, so I totally feel where you're coming from. Just trying to give you some data, shine a light.
There is one pretty good Mexican place out there that they take me to. It's not life-changing or anything.
Right.
But it's shockingly good for Surprise. I can't remember the name of it, but it's right on Bell. It's south of, it's It's like south of Grand on Bell a little bit, if I remember my streets right. It's like shockingly legit, but yeah, there you go.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks for hanging out, man, and making a little time. So we want to talk some about Extinction, and
Sure.
we'll try and steer clear of Mr. Boyce's amazing tweet, because there's plenty of other great stuff to talk about.
Yeah, feel free to ask me about that if you want, because I've got Adam is, if anyone's not familiar, Adam tweeted at Capcom like, "Hey, let us make Monster Hunter on Switch or whatever." And like the thing about Adam is like, he just loves games so much, and he's got such like a pure heart when it comes to that stuff that like some people think like he's cool and calculated with these things. He's absolutely not. Like, he just loves this shit so much he can't help himself. And so then he does things like that, which I am not pure of heart. I am nothing but cold and calculating. And so it angers me to my core, deeply to my core. And so we like to give each other a hard time on social media about it. But yeah, bottom line, feel free to ask me anything. If I don't want to answer it, I just won't answer it.
Okay.
That's my promise to you. Also, how are we for swearing on this podcast? Is swearing frowned upon?
Say whatever the fuck you want.
Explicit.
Have at it.
Great. Fantastic.
So Iron Galaxy has done some port work for Capcom in the past, right? There were those D&D brawlers.
Yeah, we did. We actually did 4 games for them. Our kind of we worked on a total of 6 projects with Capcom, and they were the first 2 were our first projects. So the way it worked was, I worked with Adam at Midway, and Adam got a chance to be VP of production at Capcom US. And he left about a year and a half before I ended up leaving Midway to start Iron Galaxy up. And then Midway just got to be too much for me personally. It was clear, something dramatic was going to happen, like they're going out of business or they're going to have to sell off to somebody. And I didn't really want to stick around to see what it was. So I punched out and started Iron Galaxy, which at the time was just me. It was just me in my basement doing consulting stuff. And I started, Adam's like, holy crap, we have a couple of games you could help with if you want to do that. I'm like, sure. So we started on Dark Void and helped out with Bionic Commando as well, the big one Grin did, the big AAA one, not Rearmed. Grin also did that one, but didn't help with that one. And then that stuff went pretty well, and they're like, hey, if you had some more people, we could give you some bigger projects. And so started hiring up some friends, and then we did Street Fighter 3 Third Strike Online Edition. We did
Excellent work, by the way.
That one was a very special project for us. That was kind of like our first soup to nuts thing we did by ourselves, even though it was just a port. Very, very proud of the effort on that. Then I think we did Marvel vs. Capcom Origins. Then it was Darkstalkers Resurrection was next. And then was that Dungeons & Dragons Shadows of Mystara thing you're talking about. And then Capcom decided to stop working with Western devs, and that was that. But it was a pretty good run there for a long time with them.
I think that that history you're talking about was probably the only thing that made the tweet feel like it could have, any kind of legs or be something. But no, I definitely appreciate the stars in his eyes and just loving Monster Hunter so much. So
yeah. Like the thing about Capcom, it's not completely unique to Japanese companies, but I think it's especially pronounced with Capcom. Is they're basically like 2 completely different companies. Like you have Capcom US and you have Capcom Japan, and we only ever worked with Capcom US, and so it's essentially like we never actually worked with Capcom. Like because Capcom US, like they ebb and flow with how much stuff they do or don't do year to year, and it basically, from Capcom Japan's perspective, it's like, who are these people? So it's effectively like we have no track record with them, but it's a kind of a weird situation. But I hear you, yeah.
Okay,
that would be a very hard game to put on the Switch.
Yes.
That game is super online-y and super modern graphics-y, and not to say it couldn't be done, but I think Capcom's initial assessment in that article that it would be very difficult is 100% correct.
It's fine. I'm perfectly happy playing it on the PS4, and probably going to get it on PC when it gets out there.
So I haven't played it yet. So Adam was trying to get me to play it with him co-op or whatever, and I might. But so explain to me, sell me for 30 seconds on Monster Hunter.
All right. So Monster Hunter is a game that is kind of like all boss fights. Like, in World, it's a little bit different because you have like a map that has a lot of environmental stuff that you can play around with. But essentially is boss fights the game with your own loadout. And there isn't quite, I won't want to say there's like a tier list between weapons. Because, like, you can choose any weapon. Like, the hardcores use, like, Charge Blade, which is, like, a sword and shield that turns into a giant axe. Or you can play, like, full goof mode and, like, take, like, a hunting horn and, like, bash, like, a monster's head in with that. The monsters, they all have pretty interesting but precise movements. And a lot of the fights is just learning their patterns and, like, adapting to them, you know, a la Dark Souls and whatnot. Well,
right.
Monster Hunter's older than Dark Souls, so that's a whole other thing. And then outside of that, like, there are a lot of really interesting support things that Capcom does. Like, I don't know if you've seen them, but they'll put out special quests where you get goofy gear. Like, they have, like, a Wiggler hat that's really big. There's an Alloy costume. There's a Ryu and Sakura costume that actually was available. Hopefully it comes back. But they do things like that periodically. Like, you fight monsters, and it's pretty tough. Like, the idea is that, like, you want to I guess, optimize your movement and, like, learn your combos to the point that you can do them on the fly. There's a lot of environmental things you can play around with. You can drop rocks. You can trap monsters in vines. And there's a lot of tools that are available to you, like bombs and whatnot. But the idea is that, like, you're basically fighting these, like, intelligent, powerful monsters with your own particular moveset with weapons and tools you get to play around with. And there's a lot of, you know, quality of life stuff. There's tiny cats. There's a pig that you can pet and dress up in things.
Okay, you sold me with that. I'm in.
Oh, I did it.
Dress up a pig.
So the tiny pig is the tipping point?
Finally. That was exactly the tipping point. Yeah.
What Rocky left out is that you spend like 40 minutes running around tracking the wrong monster and then get bodied 800 times in a row. And then have to do the whole thing over and over again. He and I have slightly different Monster Hunter experiences.
Yeah, I think that's mostly a you problem, Brian.
It mostly is a me problem.
I'm working on Brian. I'm trying to get him up to speed. It takes some
Fair
time.
enough.
So let's talk some Extinction, man.
Sure.
This, you know, like when I look at like some of the original work, like the IP that Iron Galaxy has developed in the past, this feels different. This feels like this comes from like a new place. Like,
oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
You know, like where did this come from? Like what are the genesis of some of these ideas? Like, what led you guys to say like, okay, you know, this is the direction we're going in. This is what we want to do right now.
Sure. So I could probably talk about this for 3 hours straight. I'll try to keep it short as possible. Let you follow up with questions as you may. But this is, I could talk about this forever. So the way it all started is we have, someone we worked with in the past was basically the VP of production at Modus, who's the publisher for the title. And I hope I got his title right. I think the title might have changed recently or whatever, but Derek's the VP of production over at Modus. And he's like, hey, so we primarily have done distribution in the past, and we're starting to get into more and more kind of original game development. And we know you all are super talented, and we've kind of got like a bunch of ideas for games. Do any of these jump out at you? And kind of like really rough kind of went through the list of stuff they liked. And among them was like, you know, like a Shadow of the Colossus like, but a lot more actiony, right? That was like basically the top level like design of it, right? Okay. And that one jumped out at us for sure because like Shadow of the Colossus is like one of my top 5 games of all time for sure. And but it's almost like, you know, an action puzzler, right? Like you're figuring out like scaling the giants is like is the game, right? And then once you get to the top, like dispatching it isn't a big deal. It's getting up there is the hard part. Right. And so we spent a lot of time thinking about like, okay, what would it be like if that was different, right? If like, you know, you are this super agile, super nimble, almost like ninja-like person, and you have all these great mobility options, and getting up them would be like, you know, kind of like Assassin's Creed climbing a building, right? And then, but taking the ogre down, that's the hard part. And we just thought about that for a long time. The idea kind of stuck with us, and that was kind of the core idea. And then just kind of went back and forth on, what should the story be? What should the world be? What should this game look like? And it kind of definitely has turned into something we've never done before. Because, most people know us for, like, Killer Instinct or Dive Kick. Some people know we did an original game called Wrecketeer for the Kinect back in the 360 days. But we've never really done, like, this big third-person action game before. And so you're right. It's absolutely kind of a departure for us. But it's been super fun to work on. And we are excited. Like, exactly 1 month from today, as we record this, it will be out. So I'm very excited.
I actually really like the mobility of it. It's definitely a departure from what I think about when I think about Shadow of the Colossus. Because the climbing is definitely like a slow, calculated type of thing. Like, you're just trying to hang on.
Yeah.
And the ability that I'm seeing that the protagonist has in Extinction is that he's incredibly mobile, and that makes it so the next dimension of the issue, like trying to figure out if you're going to take off the bonds, if you're going to get up to destroy the skulls that are no longer lit whenever they do a shockwave and whatnot.
Yeah,
it seems really cool. I'm really interested in that.
Yeah, again, I don't say any of this to disparage Shadow of the Colossus because, like I said, that's one of my top 5 games of all time, right? Like, I freaking love that game. But it's like we're more into action-y type stuff and really kind of like fidgety, high speed action as a studio. And so, like, everything you're talking about, like, it turns more into, like you said, like, okay, given this ogre and the armor set they're wearing now, like, how do I want to go about this, right? Do I want to chop off the leg and then climb up its back? Is that the fastest way? Should I climb a really tall building by them and kind of, like, use my lasso to, like, propel my way up right onto their head? Or, like, what should I do, right? And so, like, it turns more into that. Like, there's a flow to, like, really good action games. Like, when you get good at Extinction, there's a flow to it that you feel in games like Devil May Cry or whatever, right? Like, where you're just kind of, like, comboing things, and you're never doing something that's lame. Like, you can, if you're playing Extinction, right, you probably never touch the ground. You're probably just bouncing from tree to tree and using your lasso to whip you and propel you around things. And it feels super powerful and super cool once you get good at it. Now, no one's going to start off like that, but as you upgrade your abilities and do all that stuff and figure out the controls, like about halfway through, I think in playtest, most people get to that point, and it kind of unlocks like what the game actually is.
Okay. Actually, I wanted to ask a bit about combos. Like, because I know at least some of the ground stuff that I've seen, it reminds me of a lot of, Devil May Cry type stuff. And I want to ask how much accessibility factored into how you guys designed the combo system.
Yeah, so in terms of strikes, there's basically, we went through multiple versions of this, but what we settled on was there's essentially one button for like a normal strike. And there's other buttons that do things like launch a character in the air or, whatever. But like, for the most part, it comes down to just hitting the X or the square button on your controller. And it's all about the timing of how you do things, right? And so, like, there's, 3 quick taps is one combo, 2 taps, a pause, another tap is another one. And depending on, the trick is learning, like, which combos are good for what situation you're in and who you're facing. And figuring all that out through kind of experience is the way to go. So there's not, I'd say it's definitely, combat is definitely easier than something like Devil May Cry for sure. Because, like, again, the focus of the game is the ogres. We just couldn't have a game with just ogres, right? Because that would probably get boring after a little bit. So there's these minions you have to fight on the ground too from time to time. And you're definitely more powerful than them. So, but yeah, it's definitely fun.
When you're fighting the minions, does it have more of a Dynasty Warriors feel? Like, how much more powerful are you than the little guys?
So there's multiple classes of them, and in the beginning you're quite a bit more powerful. Like, it's not like one strike and done, but it's like 2 to 3 strikes, and you're kind of like, knocking them to the side. They don't really have a chance against you. By the end of it, when the minions have leveled up as well, and they actually get pretty formidable towards the end. And that's the minions are a problem because, like, one thing I haven't really talked about with the game, like, the whole purpose of the game is to the Reveni, these massive ogres, are invading your land, and they're trying to wipe out the human race, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And so the goal is like, there's no way the ogres, you're stopping them. You're just trying to hold them off long enough so as many humans escape as possible, right? And while these ogres are tearing up the town, minions are down on the ground killing your humans, your friends, right? And so that's why you're probably messing. The push-pull is like, okay, do I go attack the ogres or do I go save humans? Like, that's some of the push-pull dynamic in the game. And so that's why you end up fighting them a lot. And so, like, in the beginning, it's like, you probably have time because they're not super formidable. But, like, the super minions near the end, it's like they can, like, one or two shot humans and they're dead. And so you kind of got to get down there and deal with them quickly. So it kind of bounced between those two those two modes of play.
I don't think, or I can't recall if I've seen any yet, but I don't think I've seen any footage where the player has to engage multiple ogres at a time. Is that anything which is part of the player experience?
Yeah, so there's up to, I believe, so I've played, I want to say there's up to 4 ogres at once on a map.
Let's go.
There's 100% 3 ogres. I'm pretty sure there's a couple maps with 4 ogres in them.
Oh,
and
God.
It's tricky because, like, so the way the mission structures are laid out is, in some missions you need to save 25 humans and then the map's over. And some you need to stop, like, the city from being completely destroyed. And so, it's about juggling, like, okay, I'm going to go to this ogre over here and I'm going to chop his legs off so he's out of commission for the next couple minutes while they regenerate their legs and pop back up. Then I'm going to go deal with this other ogre over here. I'm just going to chop their hands off so they can't smash this tower anymore. And so it's about figuring out, like, this balance of like, who to take out and when. And so it gets a lot. It becomes, and plus then you have the minions on the ground killing humans, and so you have a lot to manage. And it's interesting. Like, the game is like super high skill ceiling, which is something we wanted from the beginning. And like there's secondary objectives on all the missions, right? So you've got your main one, and then so say the first mission is like, hey, don't let the ogres destroy more than 30% of the city or whatever, right? You have a secondary objective of also like free 25 civilians. And your first time through, you're probably not going to get a lot of those secondary objectives. But as you get more and more comfortable with it, that's why you'll go back and play them again, right? Is to unlock those, because those things tie directly into your currency, which you use for unlocking moves and becoming more powerful. Getting basically the best moves in the game for Avil, which is your character.
Okay.
So, man, one thing that you've mentioned, or like a choice that you've made in describing it is describing it as individual maps. Is it laid out in as a series of missions? Is there an open world that the player is exploring? Like, how does the player navigate from the one mission to the next mission?
Yeah, so it's think of it as like there's like 3 to 4 to 5 linear missions in a row, and these are like handcrafted kind of bespoke levels that have like a lot of like unique features to them. And then there's a bubble where you'll have like 4 missions that are randomly generated, and everything about them is generated. Like, the terrain you're on is generated. What the goals of the mission are randomly generated. And those are cool because you don't exactly know, like, that varies from playthrough to playthrough, and that varies from, it's like your experience with the game is going to be different than my experience with the game, right? So, but it's basically like there's this run of like handcrafted set things, and then a run of like randomized levels where everything about it will be different from play to play. And it kind of alternates for those two things for the duration of the game.
Okay. Are the individual missions selectable later? One of the things that I think that you've probably shown a lot of interest in the last year as as a player and a designer is kind of that individual puzzle and competitive experience. Like, I think about a lot of the things that you were kind of like riffing on when you were talking a lot about Hitman.
Yeah.
and like this puzzle component of like, oh, I need to cut this ogre's legs off and this ogre's hands off, and balancing all of these different priorities in order to get the most optimal result when engaging a mission seems like something that's really suited for speed running. Is that what's in mind there?
So yes and no. So it's definitely like, my love of Hitman knows no bounds. But one thing that's pretty different between this game and that game is like, if you start Hitman and you don't interact with the world in any meaningful way, the simulation runs exactly the same every time, right? Like, person X will be at location Y at time Z no matter what, right? In Extinction, that's not necessarily true. There's a little more RNG into the playthroughs than that for sure.
Okay.
And so, and the reason we did that is because like there's basically for the social elements, right? Like we want you to be able to go back and so say you have an interest. I'm not sure every player will, but say you have an interest in beating my high score on a level or whatever, right? And you just can't do it. You might get a little RNG that'll give you a little push you need to get past me on that one level. So we have a couple modes in the game that are like designed specifically for that. So we have a daily challenge, which is a little more like you're talking about. The daily challenge is just like it is in Spelunky. There's a randomly generated map every single day with random objectives, and then you could try that once and one time only, right? But that's like the only content in the game you can only try once and one time only. You can go back and try any mission after you've completed it. Basically, like once you've done a mission, you can go back and do it as many times as you want.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The daily definitely sounds like something which is going to create hooks for like long-term play and keep people engaged over a longer period. To that end, like I noticed that it looks like there's a pretty cost-effective, pretty equitably priced season pass for this thing. I think it's like $10. Can you talk a little bit about like the planned post-launch support and what's in that $10 pass or $10 expansion?
So I don't know how much of that I'm actually able to talk about at this point, but we got one piece of content that we've already created for it. And I don't know if there are... Yeah, I don't want to say anything incorrect here because I'm not exactly sure what 100% of the plans are. But we basically have... the content we've created already, I can talk about that. So we've basically made 20 challenge maps, essentially, which are, again, the goal of these is to, like, you compete for scores with your friends on them in a social way. So it's not like multiplayer per se, but very much like Spelunky. It's like asynchronous kind of social multiplayer, right? So it's a pack of 20 challenge maps where, I think if you're the kind of person, if you get through all of Extinction and you really enjoyed it and you had fun killing ogres and you want to kill some more, I think that'll be right up your alley, right? So, because it's definitely, they are hard. The maps in the challenge map are very, very hard. So they're ready for like you when you finish the game.
Is that where we'll find 4 ogre maps and whatnot?
No, there's 4. I think I'm pretty sure there's. I can't believe I don't know this off the top of my head because I just did my playthrough of the whole game like 2 weeks ago. I think you start seeing like 3 ogres on a map in like the 12th mission. It's not that far in, you get them.
Okay. All right.
Because like the thing with the ogres that's weird, right, is like, so if you've never seen footage of the game, the ogres are like 150 feet tall. They're much bigger than you, but it really comes down to what armor set they're wearing, and we mix and match the armor for different ways in different ogres. And so like 3 ogres with no armor actually isn't that big a deal because they're super easy to kill. Versus like say, but if you had one ogre with like this super robust armor that you have to go through a bunch of steps to take off before you can kill them. So it's not just like the number of ogres. It also comes down to what armor sets they're wearing. And so we throw multiple ogres at you pretty early in the game just to get you used to dealing with it. Because by the end, not only are you dealing with multiple ogres, but you're dealing with multiple ogres in really decked out gear. And that's when it becomes a problem.
Okay.
You mentioned the asynchronous social multiplayer experience. But one of the things I know I was personally hoping for as soon as I started seeing footage of this thing was an asymmetrical gaming experience where somebody is playing an ogre and somebody is hunting it. Is that in the cards, on the table?
we've talked about a lot of ways we could do multiplayer. None of it is on the table for this game for sure. We thought it'd be like, I really liked, I know this game kind of got vilified for a really rough launch, but I played it about a year and a half after it came out, and all the problems were fixed. Assassin's Creed, what was the one in Paris? Was it Origins?
Unity.
Yeah.
So I really liked that game, and I really liked the multiplayer in that game. Like, some of the more elaborate heists that you and your friends could go do, like get in this building, you have to assassinate this person and steal this thing out of the safe, and you and your team of 2 to 4 assassins getting in there doing it. That stuff was super fun, and I think we could have something similar in a future version of Extinction where, you almost give people jobs, right? It's like, okay, you slow down the ogres, you go protect the city, make sure the minions don't mop too many of the people, and then whatever else the other people want to do, right? Like come up with other things for other people to do. But so I think that could be really cool. We thought about controlling an ogre. The thing with controlling an ogre that I don't know would be very fun is they move just very slowly because they have to, essentially, for the gameplay to work for the little humans. And I just don't know how fun that would be. But yeah, we've talked about a lot of different multiplayer options, and we're really hoping this game finds an audience so we get to make another Extinction down the road and explore some of these ideas maybe.
I certainly hope so. So, one of the things that we got mentioned when we were talking about Monster Hunter earlier is the idea that it appears to be a very technically demanding game, and that it's just something that doesn't seem like it would be conceivable on the Switch. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe I'm just reading it wrong, but I feel like Extinction would be conceivable on that platform, and I know that port begging is probably the most boring question ever.
That's all good. Yeah, the difficulty with any game to the Switch is if it's something like we did the port for Skyrim, right?
Right.
And there's a version of Skyrim that came out on the PS4 and the Xbox One. And I think they called it the Definitive Edition or Enhanced Edition or something. But the advantage we had when we were doing Skyrim is it also ran on the 360 and the PS3. And the Switch, I don't think this is a big secret, in performance is somewhere in between those two generations of consoles, right? It's not as powerful as the PS4, but it's much more powerful than the Xbox 360. And so knowing it ran on 360, it kind of turned into, okay, how can we optimize just the new bits from the Definitive Edition, right? As opposed to optimizing the whole game. Whereas if you took something like Extinction or Monster Hunter or Street Fighter V or whatever it is, right? If the developer didn't plan from day one to have it work on the Switch, it's not that it's impossible to get it over. It's just you would probably have to touch every single piece of content in the game in some shape or fashion to make it work on the Switch, and so it would just become cost prohibitive at that point.
Okay.
So it's when people say this is hard or impossible with the Switch, what they really mean is it's totally doable. I would just need a team of 100 people for a year, just reducing the number of vertices in these monsters and reducing mesh complexity and going through and reducing foliage in the world or whatever it is. And that just it's hard to believe that game would make money is what they're saying. And Extinction's definitely in that boat.
That sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We did not plan on the Switch blowing up like this when we started Extinction. In hindsight, I wish we did, because personally, I love gaming on the Switch. The Switch is now my favorite console to play games on, and I would love Extinction to be on that thing for sure, but not in the cards this time around.
So if there was an Extinction 2, could that possibly be on the Switch?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think anything we do, never say 100% yes or no, right? But whatever our next original game is, if it's Extinction 2 or if it's a brand new IP or we go back to Killer Instinct Killer Instinct's a bad example because it's Microsoft owned, but whatever. The meaning being we would love to have it on all platforms, right? That's if we think there's an audience there to play it and it makes sense for that audience, we want as many people playing our games as possible, right? So that means PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and Steam for us. So whatever our next game is, I'd be surprised if it wasn't on all those platforms.
Well, it was something that I thought was worth broaching because there was a game that Maximum released last year called Troll and I think it was about 3-4 months after the game launched. There was and now this is coming to Switch, and I didn't know if they were just doing staggered announcements, and there's been some stuff that I know that when you and Daryl have talked about ports in the past, you've talked about the idea of like building in headroom and things like that, and I'm like I would just love to hear that, like, and secretly behind door number 3 there's Extinction Switch.
No one would love that more than me, but it's not for this time. But if we get to do another one, like I said, we're big believers in that console. Nintendo is a fabulous company to work with. We're actually doing another Switch thing that we can't talk about right now.
Secret Switch thing.
It'll probably get announced at E3. Probably. It's going to melt people's brains. It's going to be really cool.
Sick.
Yeah. So we love the Switch. We love working on the Switch. It kind of became successful too late in Extinction cycle for us to consider it.
Tegan, you gonna live? You gonna live, Tegan?
I guess, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, well, the other, there's one other chance. Just I'll hold out hope for you, I guess, for all these Switch fans out there. Like, if Extinction goes out and it greatly exceeds sales expectations, right? Like,
so.
Which, happens to 0.01% of games, but let's just say, suspend disbelief for a moment. If Extinction goes out and just crushes all expectations for sales, then we would definitely look at the financials again and say, okay, so yeah, it is a lot of work to get it working, but based on what it's sold on these other platforms, we believe it will sell this much on Switch, and now it makes sense all of a sudden, right? So it's not like door closed forever, but door closed for initial launch for sure.
When Adam came to Iron Galaxy, one of the things that he said, and I believe in his initial interviews or first comments to the press, was the idea that he wanted to see Iron Galaxy working on more original IP. That he wanted more original stuff. Is there much more of that in the hopper right now? Are there other new projects that you guys are working on, and are they things that you are pitching to companies, as integration into existing franchises, or are they plan to be original IP like Extinction?
Yeah, so it's a mix of all the above. So, like, I'll just start off with when Adam joined, because it's kind of interesting to trace the thought process through all this stuff, I guess. So, like, one of the reasons Adam jumped over is, like, I think Iron Galaxy had been around for 8 years when he officially started, and we had been talking about him jumping over for about a year before he did, right? It took us like a year to kind of sort through everything and say, okay, yeah, this makes sense now. And we had been doing KI, and KI was like our first like big break. Like, like we did Racketeer and we did Dive Kick, but KI was kind of our first like really big, I hesitate to say something like AAA because it doesn't really mean anything anymore, but like AAA fighting game, right? And it's like, okay, so we everyone knows us for doing ports and for doing outsourcing type stuff and helping people ship their games, and that's what we're known for. And when you're known for that, it's kind of like an actor getting typecast, right? Like, it's really hard to convince people you can do other things as well, because like they're like, oh no, you helped us ship those games and that was awesome, and let's just focus on that because we know you're great at that thing already. And that's cool. Like, I totally get that. Like, we still do that. Like, we still help, Bethesda ship a lot of their stuff. We still help other publishers I'm not going to mention help ship their stuff. And so we still do that work for sure. But as we started to mature as a studio, it started to feel like we weren't maximizing our potential unless we also did original stuff too. And so when Adam jumped over, his kind of mandate is to basically focus on those things, right? Focus on building our own IPs, working with publishers to kind of get us out of that, the mindset with them where it's like, oh no, you're just a port house or whatever, despite what body of work is. And so that's been like, we're now just starting to get to the point where some of that stuff is coming online. So he's been with us, like, I guess about a year and 3/4 now. And we are pitching a bunch of stuff at GDC, and some of it is like original concept we developed from scratch. Some of it is like publisher X comes and says, hey, we want a sequel to game Y. Do you have any interest in doing that? We pitch some ideas for that. Our goal, we have about 140 developers at Iron Galaxy. And the goal is we have like one big creative thing going at all times. We're never going to be a studio that's just doing creative stuff because I don't think that like makes sense financially for us. But like, we want one big thing like Extinction or Killer Instinct going at all times. And that's kind of like what Adam is working towards, meeting that goal right now.
Oh, very cool. So on Dive Kick for a second, man. Am I ever going to get an opportunity to buy a deluxe physical collector's edition of Dive Kick for any platform?
If we ever do a sequel, I can see us doing something like that. We talked with the fine folks at, oh boy, what's the people that do the box packages for PS4 and Vita?
Limited Run Games?
Yeah, so we've been talking about Limited Run for a while. It just hasn't happened yet for a variety of reasons. But a lot of it is, I think, like, the Dive Kick is one of my favorite games of all time. It's definitely the favorite game I've ever worked on for sure. Development of that was just so much fun. And, but I think it's like Dive Kick has run its course essentially. Like, you know, it came out on Steam and, you know, PS4 and Vita, and it did really well, like by independent game standards, right? And then eventually later we put it out on PS4 and Xbox One, and it didn't really do well at all on those platforms. It just kind of like was like, we get it, it's Dive Kick. And so I think if we're ever going to go and do something big, like maybe take a serious run at making a big dumb 2-button controller, right? Or some really stupid statue or whatever, or an amiibo of Uncle Sensei or whatever for a Switch version, it would have to be for a Dive Kick sequel, which we're not currently focused on, but it's, you know, it's one of those things that, like, everyone in the world knows we're eventually going to make a sequel to Dive Kick, right? It's just, like, when is it going to happen? Who knows? I couldn't tell you. But, like, I love that game too much to not make a sequel. It did well enough to warrant a sequel, so it's just, like, whenever it makes sense, we'll do it. And that's when I think you could get your big deluxe physical version.
Man, I would stab a man for a big dumb 2-button controller. Like that.
Goodness.
You really would.
That sounds like a good time.
Yeah, we had like, so that was actually one of the that was like one of the stealth reasons Dive Kick was successful. Like, it was weird. So like Dive Kick was like this. It's really hard to describe, but like the first time I saw Dive Kick, I was like, I had the same reaction everyone else does. Like, are you kidding me? This is stupid. Like, this can't be fun. This can't be interesting. Like, it's 2 buttons, and then you play it, and you're like, oh, okay. And the first time I played it, it wasn't even an Iron Galaxy project. One of our designers, Adam Hart, it was one of his side projects, and he was showing off this prototype he made for Dive Kick at a fighting game tournament he runs. And I'm like, the minute I played, I'm like, okay, we got to put this out. Like, you cannot do this on the side anymore. We have to bring this internal and make this a real thing. And so I got it worked out with him. But we still had the problem. Anytime we told anyone about it, it was like, that's stupid. What are you doing? Like, you paid money for that? That's ridiculous. And Adam had these prototype controllers he made that were just like, I forget what it's from some big Japanese arcade game. I don't remember what it's called, but, you know, buttons that are roughly like 4 inches in diameter. And then he got a hitbox from the people at Hitbox, just put 2 of the buttons on a hitbox, and it was just these really big buttons that were fun to smash. They were the only buttons on the controller, and it instantly conveyed you everything you need to know about the game. And so just kind of like, wasn't 100% sure about it, but when we went to the first PAX East with the game, we made like 10 custom controllers like that, and just laid them out. And I actually think that's part of the reason why the game jumped off at PAX East the way it did, is just because people were like, okay, what's this game, and what are those really stupid-looking controllers? And so they came over and they checked it out, and instantly it's like, yeah, this button jumps and this button kicks. Start playing. And it's the easiest demo to give in the world. So I think, we looked into making custom controllers the first time around for everybody, and it was too expensive, not knowing the size of the audience the game would end up having. But knowing what my expectations for Dive Kick 2 would be, I think that's definitely something we would talk about again.
Yeah, I just absolutely fucking love that game. Like, Dive Kick is the reason that I felt okay buying Street Fighter V. Like,
awesome.
I had just been so pushed away by the fighting game genre for years. And I was like, this whole genre is an inaccessible wall. There's no way you can ever learn anything. Like, it felt like a very impenetrable style of game to me. And, dumping time into Dive Kick and, you know, having it be a very satisfying local and online experience, I was like, oh, wait a minute. Holy shit. Like, this genre can still be fun. There is fun to be had here.
Well, I mean, the thing about Dive Kick 2 that we always maintained when we were, like, you know, promoting the game, and I still is true, it's like Dive Kick teaches you fighting game fundamentals. Like,
Right.
Like, when I'm explaining how to play fighting games to somebody, I'm not great at fighting games by any stretch, but, like, when I'm explaining to my kids how to play it the right way or whatever, I'm like, hey, if you want to get good, here's what you need to think about. Like, fighting games are all about understanding your character and your opponent's character and maintaining a distance from that character where you have more attack options than they do, right?
Right.
It's all about spacing and distance and knowing when you're in danger and when you have an advantage, and then pressing that advantage when you have it, right? And that's all fighting games are at the end of the day. If you can train your brain to think about fighting games in that way, like, you'll be pretty good at fighting games, right? Even just if you know just like one button punches or whatever, right? So Dive Kick is just that. That's all there is to it, right? It's like, hey, at this distance, Shoals has a super flat kick, so I'm probably in danger here, but if I back up out of her range and then she kicks at me, she'll probably whiff short, and then I can punish that, right? And Dive Kick just teaches your brain to think like that about fighting games in a way, because that's the entire game. And so I truly believe it makes you, like, fundamentally better at fighting games.
Yeah, because a lot of people, especially, I want to say in, you know, like casual play, like a lot of people don't really think about things like footsies. They just want to, like, land the super and whatnot.
Right.
And they're not even, like, considering their opponent. And Dive Kick, like, limits your options, so that's all you have to consider.
Yeah, it's like you know, the minute you pick up a new character, if you're casual, or even me, like Tekken 7 came out, I'm like, okay, what are these person's moves? It's like, oh, that one looks cool. I'm just gonna hammer that one and see what I can do with it, right? And then, but once you get past that, and it's like you know what the moves are, and you know, like, what range they're effective at, and, you know, this one hits high or whatever. Like, once you start to understand that about the moves available to you, it turns from just, like, mashing out those moves into hopefully thinking about, like, when you should do them. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So, speaking of fighting games, like, obviously you had that relationship with Microsoft, did that work on Killer Instinct. Is there anything that you are working on with Microsoft that you can talk about right now?
Nothing right now. We've been working with Microsoft since 2010, pretty much. We've been working on one or two projects at a time with Microsoft. We've had a really good relationship with them. You know, they've changed a lot over the years. It used to be like Xbox Live Arcade in the 360 days, and then that kind of got shelved and merged into the Better Games Group. And so, like, we've been kind of with them that whole time. So it's safe to assume we're doing something with them, but we can't talk about it at this time.
Okay. Well, if you can't talk about Microsoft, are we ever going to get that spiritual successor to Sneak King on Kickstarter?
I would fucking love that, man.
Oh my God.
The thing, though, is we'd have to get. I think about this more than I should, for sure, because I don't think you could get the Burger King license for a reasonable price. Especially if you tell me you're making Sneak King 2. So I'm like, what other IP could you get away with that with? Where you could make, like, a really creepy version of their mascot, and just walk around, like, just doing things that should get you arrested in normal circumstances with that IP holder's mascot. And I can't think of many people that would let us do that. So if there's anyone out there, hit me up on Twitter and hit me with your suggestions, because I'm all ears, because I would love to make that game.
Oh, man, like Dirtbag Bubsy.
Dirtbag Bubsy. Yeah, That's probably an example of one we could probably not get away with. Bubsy's already tarnished. They're probably Bubsy's on the ropes. Bubsy, they probably don't want to take any chances with the Bubsy IP at this point.
Well, what if you made like an IP of like a character that doesn't exist? Like you take like the Arby's hat and you put it on some sort of mascot. Because I don't think Arby's actually has like an actual mascot or anything.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you could have a game with that for sure. For me, part of the reason, like the novelty that I was playing with the Burger King, like it was the same reason I liked that Fight Night game the King showed up in. It's like just the novelty that I was playing with the Burger King like never wore off, right? They're like, okay. I'm hiding in a garbage can, and I pop out and I present a Whopper or a crust sandwich with this flourish. And then this person isn't, like, scared at all. They're, like, giddy with joy that I hit him with a Whopper from the trash bin. Like, it never got old. And so I think it's got to be something like, you could make up an IP. Like, if that was, like, any random thing, I don't think that game would be as affecting for me personally.
Okay.
I wonder if we could get Wendy's in on it. Because, like, the Wendy's Twitter is on fire.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And what's it? So is that one thing I don't know about Wendy?
I would love to see Wendy, like, come up and stab someone with a straw or something.
Yeah, just dump up. It's Frosty time. Yeah, like, we could find, I just got to track down Dave Thomas and just get a deal done with Dave Thomas then. That's actually a good call.
Yeah, Sneak King it feels like this weird redheaded stepchild of, like, the Hitman series where it's like, okay, you're sneaking around, but instead of doing a murder, you're going to do all of this, like, shitty, dumb stuff just to surprise people with a burger.
Yep. Yeah, you're going to be walking around a lumber mill for no reason, just dropping food on people with flourishes. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense at all. Like, that whole era, there was like a 2-year span where someone at Burger King who really loves video games finally got a chance to do some deals. And, you know, they put them in that Fight Night game. They made those 4 games, or 3 games. Pocket Bike Racer, Big Bumpin', Sneak King, and it's like, okay, this is it. This is going to work. And then, we never heard from that person again, so I don't know what happened to them. If you're out there, write me. I want to know what you're doing now, where you're putting weird deals together now for video game stuff.
I want to know that guy's okay. Whoever made those deals, I want to know he's still all right, that he's not like a realtor in Dubuque or something.
Oh, no.
Oh, man.
Yeah, all I can hope is that they're okay. They brought so much joy into so many people's lives.
Did you know that there's a Sneak King speedrunning community?
Yeah.
That blows my mind.
I mean, there's basically any game speedrunning community at this point. Like, I feel. Like, if it was a game like... Because there's also, like, there's 2 types, right? There's, like, you know, your Zelda Breath of the Wild, which are, like, a game everyone knows, and billions of people develop hacks for. But then there's games that, like, no one plays... Just this one person has dedicated their life to doing it. And then, you know, he's watching them on Twitch and, like, sure enough, like I'm blanking on one of them now, like, but just, like, any of, like, really small games you never heard of, like, from Japan or whatever. And there's a speedrunner for it seems like, these days. It's crazy. Like, the dedication to speedrun stuff is more dedication than I have in any aspect of my life. Like, I've never been as dedicated to being as good at anything as speedrunners are to, like, the one game they pick or whatever. It blows my mind what those people do.
I made a contract which ended up getting featured in Hitman because I thought it was a puzzler. I thought it would really bother people. And then once it got featured, I saw people doing that contract in, like, 90 seconds and just... I'm like, oh, fuck me. Like, all right, I'm no genius. These guys are scientists. Like,
they're in the lab, man.
They're in the lab. Apparently,
you
can drop a chandelier on Rocco's head pretty easily. So who knew?
The weird thing about Hitman is, like, it's almost a different game on PC than it is on console, because of generally the frame rate is much higher, and I'm pretty sure there's mouse and keyboard controls for Hitman. I might be wrong about that.
Yep.
But,
there
like,
is.
Yeah, when I watch PC players play, like, they do things in that game I don't feel like I can execute on console. Like there's this in the that hotel map in Thailand. You know, if you go to the top, there's, like, 2 guards at the top of one of the stairwells, and you go back into that, like, museum area back there. But if you walk past the guards, Like, they just stop you and they frisk you, and then you're going to jail or whatever. They don't let you pass. But, like, this, I was watching a PC player one time. He, like, ran right in between them. He got, like, right to the point where he started some action from them, then backed up and ran away. Then they both kind of turned away to go back to their position. And then, that, like, 3 frames when they're looking away, like, he dove in the gap between them again. I'm like, you could never, ever do that with a controller, right? And so I feel like, yeah, it's bonkers, like, the exploits people have figured out with that game. Because, like, I've watched my fair share of Hitman streams.
Yeah, 3-frame window to dive through on AI? That's ridiculous.
Yep. When they do stuff like stacking the coins on top of each other to shoot a guy across the map, like... Yeah, it's bonkers.
Yeah. But that's one of the things that makes that game so good is, like, that, like, some games, like, that stuff might feel like exploits or bugs or whatever. And, you know, by and large, I think those things are exploits and bugs. But, like... Mm-hmm. Hitman asks you to poke at it in a way where that's like permissible behavior, right? Where it's like that's cool that you found that out. It's not cheap, right? And so those games that like, hey, poke at the simulation, try to find its soft underbelly, and then exploit it for your own purposes. Like, I think that's one of the things people love about that game so much.
Right. So, you know, you have talked a fair bit in the past about monetizing teens.
Yes, I'm an enthusiast.
Yeah, we know your passion for it. There has been a lot of hay made in the last several months around loot boxes.
Yeah.
You know, so much so that, like, Maggie Hassan, senator from New Hampshire, sent a letter to the ESA. ESA said, we're going to put a label. The label doesn't specifically call out loot boxes. Do you think that at large the game industry is navigating this correctly right now? Do you think a more aggressive response is appropriate? Do you think that, you know, wait and see is kind of appropriate? Like, so, how does the game industry react to the larger concern around loot boxes?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I haven't completely formulated my opinion on this topic. So I'm still kind of thinking about it actively and figuring out how I shake out on it. Like, I think I have 2 kind of thoughts that seem antithetical to each other, but I'm not sure they are. So my first thought is like, okay, why are we having this discussion in the first place? It's like, okay, it's because like of the Star Wars stuff, right? And like people were so mad about Star Wars and they loosed their anger on everything about Star Wars was related. And that kind of threw loot boxes into like, you know, That was like, I think, the tipping point where loot boxes are like, people are like, okay, this is no longer okay, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of like, well, that's stupid. Like, part of me is like, that doesn't really make a lot of sense. Like, I like loot boxes have been done well before, like Overwatch, right? Like, how many people don't like loot boxes in Overwatch? I don't know of that many. It certainly hasn't like bubbled up on my radar if there is, right? And so that's kind of dumb that's the reason we're talking about it now. But then I've done some reading about, like, there are just people out there that are just compulsive, right? And you're effectively taking advantage of this very small percentage of people, right? Like, they literally can't help themselves, and it's like a psychological disorder. And what is our obligation as an industry to protect people with those issues versus not? And I don't know. I'm not sure I have an opinion on that yet. Like, I think, you know, all my jokes about monetizing teens aside, like, I want people to feel good about their financial interactions with Iron Galaxy. I want people to feel good about their financial interactions with anything we work on. And if someone does it out of compulsion or need, I don't think I feel too good about that, frankly. But, like I said, I'm still kind of developing my opinions on it.
Well, I do know that Overwatch specifically had trouble, not necessarily here like in the West, but I know in China they got in trouble because of how people were trying to farm specific, I guess, drops and whatnot, and they had to. There was a huge fight about publishing the actual drop rates.
I mean, I don't think publishing the drop rates actually fixes any problem, right? Like, I don't think people Because, like, I mean, at the end of the day, like, this is like any free-to-play mechanic. Like, an incredibly small percentage of people actually buy this stuff, right? Like, I think, like, on average, if you're running, like, a free-to-play game, you should expect, like, 5 to 2% of people will give you money when you're running a free-to-play game, right? And a much smaller percentage than that do it more than once, right? Like, there's a lot of people who just like, oh, I'm going to buy loot boxes once and see what it's like, and then they never do it again or whatever. And I don't know that publishing the model stops that at all, and I don't think it stops compulsive people at all. So, like, I mean, it's a step in the right direction, I guess, because it's like a rational step. It's like, yeah, everyone should know what they're buying, right? And this anything that illuminates what people are buying, it's hard to argue that's a bad thing. I don't think it fixes any of the core problems people are actually experiencing with loot boxes, though. But that's just me.
Fair enough. So how do you feel? I mean, one of the things that you mentioned earlier is just like the idea of like what even is AAA anymore. Like that there's lines which have been blurred between like major studio development and indie development, and it's harder to define what that looks like. So at the risk of asking a really dumb question, what do you think about the future of so-called AAA development, and what does that look like, and is it healthy?
So yeah, I don't think it's that blurry. I think it's, in my mind, it's pretty clear cut. Like, AAA development is, there's less than, I'd say easy. Well, let's talk about just let's limit it to console games, right? Because if you talk about mobile and China, like, that's a different world I'm not as familiar with. But if we're talking about like just like, hey, games that you're going to see advertised in the Super Bowl or whatever,
sure,
there's less than 20 of those a year, and those things have a budget of like 20 to 50 to $100 million, and the publishers expect to make 5 to 6x that in return, right?
Right.
And those expectations are what define AAA for me, right? And everything else is not that. And so you can have really cool games, like, and then there's like the notion of like triple I, like say Firewatch is like a triple I game, right? And that's like really high production value at a much smaller budget by a much smaller team, right? And then there's still just indie, which is just like, hey, it's a box and a triangle and spheres, and now we got video ball, right? So almost no budget, and you're just kind of getting it done with ramen and guts, So I think it's like, I don't think about it so much as like the product as what is the intent of this product, right?
Okay.
And if the intent is, no, we're going absolutely huge with this thing, we're spending $40 million in development, we're going to spend another $60 million in marketing, and da-da-da-da-da, whatever it is, versus like, yeah, I think I had a really cool idea for a game, and to stand out from the crowd, we're going to invest like $3 to $5 million in it, and we're going to get funding to do that, or whatever. That's more like your triple I, and then everything else but like lower than that is just kind of indie to me.
So something like Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice.
I would call it triple I for sure.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say it definitely has a big gloss to it. Like I know that they spent a fair amount of money on it, but nowhere near like what you're talking about with like that Call of Duty tier.
Yeah, like Ninja Theory is like one of my favorite developers. Like, I actually loved Heavenly Sword. Like it had problems for sure, but like I loved it. And like those segments when you were playing as her little friend whose name I don't remember, like that was actually, you could like guide that projectile through the air. That was like a major influence in like some of the Racketeer stuff we did. And so like I love that developer and I love the games they do, but like I don't want to speak for them by any stretch, but like, under no circumstances were they expecting to sell like 10 million copies of that game, right? Like, and that ambition shows through in their design choices, right? And so it's got AAA qualities to it. Like, it looks amazing, and the facial capture is amazing, and it's got a lot of things that are, it's got qualities of some AAA productions. But again, if the way I tend to think about it is, okay, what's the intent of this thing?
Right.
And that defines kind of what it is. It's that would make it not AAA in my book.
Okay, so if we're defining AAA by that expectation, then I guess we're looking at things like, BioWare's Mass Effect series or
right,
Final Fantasy 15 and
Assassin's Creed, Call of Duty, Madden, FIFA. Yeah.
So do you think that kind of development is in a good space? Do you think that they are, I guess, productive is what I would say?
Yeah, I mean, they're really, yes. So in summary, yeah, I do. Like if it wasn't for AAA, I would say no. So like one of the, like when we were starting, so I started Iron Galaxy in 2008, and several years before that, probably like 2003, there was a nice continuum of budgets for games, right? Mm-hmm. Anywhere between like, $1 million to $20 million for a really expensive game, right? And they're like all those ranges in between. And then over time, the high end started to grow higher at the expense of like this gap emerged in the middle where just no game budgets exist, right? Mm. So you had like between $1 and $5 million and then 20 and over. And if you wanted to make a game for $10 million, fuck you, it's not happening, right? Like no one's investing that money.
Right.
Whereas now you've still got like these super high end things, and AAA is starting to fill in some of the other gaps that didn't exist anymore,
Okay.
Right. And so like I think again, because you're serving different customers with these different kinds of games. And as long as like that middle is still getting served, I don't think AAA is bad at all. I think like it's proven like lots, like it's super risky. Like if you look at like Bethesda, right? Like Bethesda, they did Skyrim, and they did Fallout 4, and they sold like 25 million copies of each of those, right? And then they put out Wolfenstein, and Wolfenstein does great. And then this year, if you trust everything you read in gamesindustry.biz, right? Like Wolfenstein 2 comes out, and Prey 2 comes out, and Dishonored 2 came out last year. And none of them did what they expected them to do. And they attribute it largely to this kind of notion that, like, yeah, it's just like single-player story isn't what it used to be or whatever. And regardless of, like, how you personally shake out on that debate, like, I think looking at the Bethesda stuff, it's kind of hard to come up with a rational reason why those 3 super high-quality games all underperformed, right? All of a sudden. Right? Yeah. So I tend to kind of agree with that notion that it's probably that. But like if you look at that, so does that mean AAA is broken? I don't think so. I think it just means Bethesda needs to figure out a way to make those games more relevant now, And if they do, then they'll get back to selling 25 million copies of them because they're an amazing studio that can make super high quality stuff, the highest quality stuff. They just have to make what people are wanting, and that's like it's irresponsible and risky if like you've got we have 20 million in the bank and we're going to spend it on one game. Like that's stupid. But if you're like Nintendo or Microsoft or Sony or Bethesda or Warner Brothers or 2K, and you've got like
isn't that big a deal?
It's not that it's not big a deal. I mean, it's still a big deal, but it's like it's a financial risk. It's not a company ender. It's like we're going to take this risky investment and hope that the game we're making today in 3 years when it's done, it'll still be relevant to people playing games. We'll hope the landscape hasn't changed enough in 3 years where people will still be into this thing. And you go into that eyes wide open that it's a financial risk, right? But like if you do it and you've got money to take that risk, then so be it. It's like the difference between like me going to Vegas and setting a hard budget of like, okay, I'm going to gamble $100 a day, win or lose. Like I'm just going to like no more than $100 a day. $100 a day, like that's not nothing. That's like really, it's an amazing meal, or it's like 2 pairs of jeans, or like it's like a significant amount of money. But it's also money. If I lose it, I'm not like destitute, right? Versus like, if my grandma was going to Vegas and just pumping her retirement into the penny slots, well, that's objectively bad, right? Like objectively bad. So
gotta get her away from the slots.
So that's a very long-winded way of me saying I think AAA is fine.
Okay.
Respect that. And you found a way to say it that reminded me that there's nothing more sad than seeing some oxygen tanks in Vegas. That just kills me every time.
It's always pretty dark. Yeah.
Oh, it's the worst. So you are like incredibly busy. You are ridiculously busy. Like, and like, just right out the box. Like, thank you for making time for us today. I know I've already said it, but thank you again. Like,
it's lucky you record on Saturday mornings. That's the one thing that allowed this to happen. Yeah.
Thank you. Is that like we've been, I guess, trying to get this squared away since like October. So because you are so damn busy, I'm curious as to what made you say, I know, I'm going to do another podcast with Jeff Gerstmann about hip hop.
It's a couple things. It's one, Jeff and I had been talking about doing it for like 6 years, right?
Okay.
Like we've been wanting to do something together for a really long time. And I really like doing podcasts. That's another thing, like why I'm here is I kind of like just talking to microphones, like to people. It's fun. And I'm super passionate about hip hop. And the final thing that put it over the top is we kind of agreed that there'll just be no schedule to the show, right? Like there's no promise that we're going to do one a month or we're going to do one a week. Whenever we both have some downtime, we just do an episode, right? And
cool.
That's what makes it a lot easier than like GFB. Like GFB for 3 years almost, we tried to do it weekly. We were largely successful, but it was too hard to maintain. The cost of maintaining that schedule was too high. And so we went to 2 weeks, and that seems more doable. But again, just like knowing, like, you know what it's like. You have to deliver something every week or you're going to start bleeding people. It's like the minute you miss a show or you miss a deadline, you lose 100 listeners or whatever it is, right? It's like, it's awful. And so whatever we say we do, we want to do it. The thing that makes I'm a Fix Wolves possible is like, we don't care about any of that. We just want to talk to each other about hip hop every once in a while, and we're happy to record it. So
it's definitely been a lot of fun to listen to. Like I don't know anywhere near as much as I want to about hip hop. Like I know what I like. And so getting exposure to more has definitely been a lot of fun. I usually listen to like a lot more West Coast stuff. Big Vince Staples fan. So it's been cool, man. It has been. I've definitely been. I think one of the intended purposes of the show was as like a primer for folks who
right
are kind of like looking for directions to go. And so I've definitely been putting together the unassailable playlist and assailable playlist on Tidal, the streaming service that nobody uses. So,
awesome, that's cool. Yeah. We both get a lot of I tweet out more hip hop stuff than Jeff does. Jeff mostly tweets just weird pictures he finds at Kmart or whatever. I'll tweet out like random hip hop stuff or whatever. And people will like just come up to me at like PAX or whatever, and like, hey, one time you tweeted, Run the Jewels before I saw anyone else tweet it or whatever, or you tweeted something about Brockhampton or whatever it is, and I listen to it and I really love it. Is there anything else like them you could recommend to me? And I had that conversation enough times where I'm like, it's obvious there's this like people that have like some interest in hip hop, but don't know where to start looking for stuff that they think they'll like. And Jeff and I talked about that specifically several times, and that was kind of the thing. It was like, okay, that's the show, right? Like, if you're super into hip-hop, you'll still like it. If you know everything about hip-hop, you'll be nodding at everything we're saying and be like, oh, no, I actually think that super old song sucks or whatever, but, like, you'll do it. Whereas we don't assume you know that, though, right? Like, we try to be super, like, okay, and this song is like this, and this song is like this, and this album is like this, and it's kind of like this if you like it or whatever, just to kind of give people a shove in the right direction if they have any interest at all in hip-hop. And it seems to largely be working so far. We're recording our next, we've said we're going to record our next one on Monday. We'll see how that goes. And we're doing a new segment on that one where we're stack ranking our favorite songs from 2001. And we're going to just do a handful of songs each there. So I think that'll be another nice little thing for people. Like, okay, let's hear what these guys think was the best songs of 2001. And maybe you find an artist you never heard of before, right? Maybe it's like, oh shit, I haven't heard this song in like 20 years or whatever. So it's been an experiment to do. and I really like doing it. And I think it's gonna stick around for a while.
Nice. Tegan, I think that you had some questions about travel that you wanted to dig into.
Yeah. So I miss traveling a lot, but my budget, since being able to utilize my student loans for traveling, has significantly decreased.
Sure.
So being able to travel around on a budget, like, what's a good way to start? Where do you start as far as, like, which countries do you go to? Like, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so I think it comes down to your personal level of comfort for potential, like, adventurous situations, right? So, like, if you're on a budget, I think like Brazil can be a great place to go, right? Because you get an Airbnb down there for super, super cheap, like right on Copacabana, right? Copacabana. And like that's right where you want to be, and you can hang out down there. And the food is eating local food that's super cheap, and drinks are super cheap. But there's definitely language barriers down there, right? Like if you don't speak Portuguese, it can be pretty daunting. It's also like I've been to Brazil several times, and I've had like an incident every time I've been down there where like something weird has happened, right? Like,
oh no!
Either like I got pickpocketed and they took my cell phone, or like I just see I've never been in danger at all. Like I don't want to make it sound like it's dangerous or whatever, but I've like shenanigans have happened every time I've been down there, right? And so it's like I love Brazil. I will definitely go back, but like it's like that's some stuff people don't even want to think about, right? They don't want to like think, oh God, I got to get a money belt or whatever, right? They just want to be like so. It comes down to, like, Brazil comes down to that for you. Another relatively cheap place to go, I think, if you really like, one place I've been that's really cool, that is kind of under talked about, and it can be really cheap, is Kuala Lumpur. So it's really hard to get to from here. Basically, you have to fly, like, you have to get to Singapore, and usually that's like a 1 to 2 stop plane trip for almost anybody in the States. And or Hong Kong. There's places to Hong Kong to Kuala Lumpur. But Kuala Lumpur is pretty cheap, and there's a ton of stuff to do, and it's really pretty safe. People speak English there by and large, so that problem isn't as daunting. Kuala Lumpur is pretty good. On a budget, what else could you do? If you're looking for more like vacation-y type stuff, I did a trip to Cancun in January that was super cheap and really good. It's not exotic at all. It's like, it's Mexico and tourist Mexico at that. But it was super fun and super cheap. Those are the ones that like jump to the front of my mind as you say those things.
Alrighty. So would you recommend bringing family to any of those? Like probably Cancun, but like elsewhere, especially like family who's not into the whole like being so cramped up and like that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, so that's again, it all gets down to how adventurous they all are, and if it's the kind of thing that's like, like I could not take my mom to any of these places because my mom's kind of a diva, and she'd be like just complaining about how small, how uncomfortable the bed was the whole day, while we're out trying to do cool shit. So like, it comes down to the people, I think, at the end of the day. But, like, maybe what's, like, a good middle ground? Like, I think, like, so I haven't been there in a long time, but, like, I remember Prague being a pretty good mix of, like, relatively not expensive, but also kind of super Europe-y, where it's, like, it's not American-sized rooms by any stretch, but it's also not, like, Japan.
Right.
And things are pretty much normal there, and most people speak some English. So, like, maybe Prague or, like, Western Europe is, like, a good place to check out. Because that'll be somewhat familiar. I was going to say, Sweden's expensive, but Sweden rules too. Everyone there speaks English. The food is great, but it's expensive, so it's not on a budget. At least I don't know how to do it for a budget. So maybe you just
save up more for that one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's especially if you go like in the summer. Summer, it's baller time up there. It's really cool. Yeah, I'm very fortunate that I have a job where I get to travel around and meet a bunch of people all over. And I didn't really know how much I love travel until I started doing this job, actually. And so I got bit with the travel bug pretty late in life, but it bit me really hard, and I'm very lucky I get to do all this stuff.
Alrighty. That's awesome. I miss traveling. I miss it a lot. I even miss, like, the cramped, awful seat on the plane just cause, like, that feeling when you finally get off, you're like, ha-ha, I did it.
Yeah, it feels like an accomplishment, right?
Right,
Yeah.
Exactly. So say, like, you've done all the PAX, you've done all the major game conferences here, like, would you recommend Bit Summit, EVO, or Gamescom for your next major game conference for someone who wants to go?
Definitively not Gamescom.
Okay.
Gamescom is a shit show. I generally try to not. Oh boy, it's hard to not speak in very general terms here, and I don't want to like offend anybody, but like, Gamescom is just, it's too many people in too small a space, right? Like they get like. Now, Gamescom is like much bigger than like E3 in terms of floor space, but they have like 350,000 people come through over the course of the weekend. You're always like shoulder to shoulder with people. Like, personal space does not exist there, right? And you're waiting in line like 4 hours to play a game. So like, I would never recommend Gamescom to anybody unless you can go on one of the business days. If you can finagle a way to go on a business day, then all the booths are still open. And it's pretty empty, and so you can kind of see a lot of cool stuff then. Now, that being said, I love Cologne, the city. Like, Cologne's a great town to go visit. So if you're thinking about, like, doing some Germany tours and Gamescom, you want to check it out for a day while you happen to be there, that probably makes sense. But, like, I wouldn't go for Gamescom, especially if you're looking for, like, a PAX-like experience. Bit Summit versus EVO, it really comes down to, I think, how you're wired. Like, EVO... To get the most out of EVO, you need to be really comfortable walking up to someone playing Melty Blood at a casual station and asking to play with them. You know, like some rando. Like, to get the most out of EVO, you need to be able to just walk up to random people and be like, "Hey, can I get next?" or whatever. You know, and if you're not that person, EVO probably will not get the most out of it. Now, Bit Summit is the closest thing to a PAX feel to it that's not PAX. There's a bunch of games. It's in one of my favorite cities in the world, Kyoto, which is great. And there's a lot of stuff to do outside of the show. Like, you know, there's usually like pretty well publicized parties that people go to around Bit Summit stuff. And, you know, so you're hanging out with devs and you're meeting people and English is not really easy in Japan, but it's going to be easiest at something like Bit Summit, where there's going to be a bunch of like expat devs who live there, and you can walk up and start talking to them really easily. So I'd say between EVO and Bit Summit, it kind of comes down to what you're looking for and how you're wired. But I love both those shows very much.
So while we're talking EVO for a second, Impossible Coin has a question, which is, what are your feelings on hit 90s fighting game Clayfighter?
So I've never played Clayfighter. We actually tried to buy the IP when it was up for auction. When it did that.
What? Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Because there's a bunch of people who liked it. And like, if nothing else, it was like, oh, it'd be hilarious to have like Clayfighter and Dive Kick 2 whenever we do that. You know? Like, if nothing else, it was like, oh, it'd be that. And then we hit up the people that were running the auction, and simply put, they were like the worst people in the world to deal with. They're like, we want to buy like just the IP. We don't want to buy the rights to any of the games. We don't care about the other games. We just want to buy the rights to the IP. And like, they wouldn't sell us just that. We had to buy all the games and all this and all that. It was like uber complicated. And so we're just like, okay, you know, if you ever sell it to anybody, I guess, congratulations. If you don't, hit us up again, because our offer still stands. We'll buy the IP from you for this many dollars. And we never heard from them again. So either our offer was insultingly low, or they sold the whole bundle to somebody else.
Man, all right. business deal
Now
I
Brian's
most wish had
upset.
happened. Like there's a little piece of me sad inside right now. Like, missed opportunity.
Oh,
You know what? It's a lot of life comes down to time and place, you know? And we were not at the right time at the right place to probably get that deal done for Clayfighter. So, also, it doesn't help that I have no personal affinity for it. So for me, it was just cold, calculated business decisions for me. Like there was no emotion in it at all. Whereas if it was something like, say, Samurai Showdown, would I overpay for Samurai Showdown? Yes, I probably would overpay for Samurai Showdown. So,
Well,
I mean, knowing your limits on that kind of stuff is a little important.
yeah, running a business, it helps for sure. Yeah.
Oh.
Especially when the only goal of the business is to stay in business for the next 20 years.
yeah. Rocky, please take a note. I will need to be consoled regarding Clayfighter later.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Also, we were definitely sending Tegan to Japan. Oh, actually, I had a question about travel before we moved on. One of the things that we've been talking about, we've actually mentioned potentially going to Brazil to take part in the weird gray gaming market that's out there.
Yeah. No, so when I went down there, it's always been... I've never been down there for gaming-related stuff, oddly enough. Like, I've never gone to the Brazil game show.
Okay.
Which I've actually heard amazing things about. I've heard that's a really cool show, but I've never actually been. I was down there for, like, World Cup, and then I was down there visiting a friend.
Okay.
And then I just went down there for Carnival
Nice.
one year. And so I never actually checked out any video game stuff at all, and I feel kind of like a scumbag for not having done so, but there you go.
All right. Nah, I respect it. It's one of those things. I wouldn't have guessed it until, a friend brought it up to me in the first place.
Right.
It seems like a wild scene down there. Like the fact that there was a perfectly licensed, totally legit version of Guitar Hero that came out for the Sega Genesis down there just blows my mind. It's crazy business.
I mean, it's different down there. Like, I really like Brazil a lot. I like the people. The people are super friendly and super cool. Just different things are possible down there. You know, it's a really weird place.
So, you've developed quite a reputation for paying it forward, giving folks like us time and answering questions when people have them. How's that translate into your Iron Galaxy's community work?
I think largely the results of that are invisible to me, to be honest with you, because like it's hard to say oh, like we have, like our standard of behavior for interacting with people who interact with us is like we want to reply to every tweet, we want to reply to every Facebook message, and we want to reply to all these things. And sometimes we fall short of that for sure, right? And there's sometimes where we can't answer questions because of the nature of the question or whatever. But our goal is to always like make people feel that like, hey, we're there and we're listening and we hear what you're saying. But no one, whenever they do something and like they come up to me at PAX and they say like, oh, hey, I love Iron Galaxy or whatever, it's never like, hey, because you were a dick to me when this happened or whatever, or because of this or this or this. So like, I think it all helps and I think it all adds up, but like, it's impossible to know for sure like what the net effect of like just being accessible is, right? The reason we do it is because I think it makes sense, but it's if it is or isn't is largely like unknowable.
I get that, but I guess that concept, just making time for everyone. One of the things that actually Brian wanted me to ask you about was that influenced by your visit to EA as a kid?
It's that for sure. If people have never heard the story, I'll do the 2-minute version of it. Like, it's when I was in the 7th or 8th grade. I don't remember exactly what year it was. I was super into electronic arts games like Archon and Mail Order Monsters, Racing Destruction Set, and just all those games. And I wrote a letter to EA asking if they needed help beta testing games and could they mail me games to Illinois that I could test, because I'm just a dumbass kid. I don't know any better, right? And so they emailed me back and they're like, well, no, we don't do that. But if you're ever in the Redwood Shores area, or San Mateo. No, it was Redwood Shores at the time. Yeah. Like, hey, stop by the office and bring this letter and we'll give you a tour. And so I made my parents like take our next vacation was San Francisco. I made them basically do that. And then a couple days in San Francisco, then we went down south a bit and we did it. We went by EA and sure enough, we showed the letter. And then like I met Trip Hawkins and Trip Hawkins gave us an interview with or a tour of the office. And like, I didn't know who Trip was at the time, but now it's like, that was fucking amazing. Now I know who he is, right? It's like, I sat down with Bill Budge for a half hour, and Bill Budge showed me like a version of Music Construction Set before it was done, and asked me what I thought about it. And it's like, that's fucking amazing. Like that you made time for really this shitty little kid, right? And like, it's like that informs it for sure. But like, what really cemented it for me is when I was getting Iron Galaxy started, and Adam was at Capcom. And he's like, hey, you need to know more people that run their own studios because you don't know what you're doing. And I'm like, well, you're absolutely right. Like, I don't know what I'm doing, but like, how is that going to help? Because in my mind at the time, I thought of everyone as like competition, right? I didn't think of us as like peers. It was like competitive. And like, well, no, that's not the way anyone else thinks about it. Like, you can talk to these people and you can pick their brain on stuff. And so he introduced me to a handful of people, like Chris Taylor at Gas Powered Games, and Andrew Ayer of Other Ocean, and Doug Tronsgaard, just like a billion other people that run studios. And I was overwhelmed by how much they were willing to sit with me and just answer my stupid questions, right? Like, hey, how do you find a good lawyer? How do you know if your CPA is any good? Have you ever dealt with Capcom before? What are they like? And I want to pitch this thing. What's the best way to go about it? And do you have a good contact at Sega or whatever it is, right? And there's all these people who are super successful and don't need to pay me the time of day. I'm sure they have this conversation like 300 times a year with people that are starting studios. And like the next year, 250 of them are out of business, right? Like, so why do they do it, right? Why the fuck do they do it? They do it because they're cool and they're good people, right? And that always stuck with me. And so whenever anyone approaches me with similar questions, I just think about that time in my life when that meant a lot to me, when people made time for me. And, you know, it's like, I want to be that for somebody else, right? Like I want to be, 10 years from now, I want someone to come to me and say, hey, I was just getting started. You sat down with me at PAX for a half hour and talked to me about thing X, thing Y, or thing Z, and it really helped, and thank you. And like, that'll be payback enough for me.
You know, we have, the theme to our show is done by Big Sach, and
Big Sach was watching my Twitch stream the other day and told me he did it, and I was like, fuck yeah, I love Big Sach.
And like he has, when we let him know that you were going to be on, he had absolutely nothing but the most effusive praise and just absolutely, the most wonderful things to say about you. And he said, like, yeah, I do music, but my love is programming. And, like, I feel like every interaction I've had with Dave has been, formative and helpful and instructive. And, somebody else who, like, listens to our show and is part of our community is a guy named Colton Daniels.
Oh, yeah, I know Colton. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, like, it seems like everybody that, I've run across who's run across you, like, I don't know a single person in this world who thinks you're an asshole. Which is high praise of anybody I can think of. Like, and everybody has nothing but the best things to say about you and how, like, wonderfully helpful you are. And just,
if you want to change that, I'm sure I could point you to a couple people.
Oh, sweet.
I know a couple off the top of my head that would disagree with that statement strongly, but no, I appreciate that. That's very sweet. And, like, again, it's like, I just look at it as, like, just repaying that favor, right? And people were super kind to me when they didn't need to be. There's absolutely no benefit to, like, Chris Taylor talking to me for an hour about stuff. Right. There's no benefit to him at all. And he just did it. And, if I could be that for somebody else, then that's awesome.
Your story about EA, like, really resonates with me. I think the reason I love video games as much as I do, and this is going to sound dumb, is probably the 3DO.
3DO was the
first. It was the first system I ever bought with my own money. And I remember, like, just reading everything Trip Hawkins had to say, and then I started reading about how he interacted with the the Japanese development community specifically, and like how he was like cutting the price of dev kits for Japanese developers for that console, and
Right.
and how that kind of like, unlocked a lot of like what would start to look like the modern Japanese indie development scene. That like if it wasn't for the approaches he was taking with the 3DO company, we probably would never have gotten like D from Kinji Ino and stuff like that.
Right.
And it seemed like a really cool way to run a company and a cool way to interact with people. And like there's not really many boxes out there that I have as much nostalgia for as the 3DO. Like I still have like a stack of like Next Generation magazines where they were like reporting on the impending release of that thing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm the same way. Like FIFA for me on the 3DO, like I don't know if it holds up, but I played more FIFA on the 3DO like my last year of college than almost any game I've ever played. Right? Like that game was amazing. There's so many games on that, like Slam and Jam.
Oh yeah.
There's so many amazing games. It was a really weird system and a weird business model, and I wish they could have stuck around to get that M2 out the door. But yeah, it was an amazing place. It sucks like when they transitioned to like more of a software company, things didn't work out for them as well. But like, yeah, I have a lot of affinity for that box and that company as well.
Yeah. Tegan, I think you wanted to close out with an incredibly hard-hitting question.
Yes, this is the most important question we ever have had on the show.
Okay.
Are tacos a sandwich?
Absolutely not.
Okay, why not?
That, I mean, it's like
they contain
pizza...
all the same basic
here's
ingredients as a sandwich.
What do you call it? Do you call it a taco or do you call it a sandwich?
Yes.
You call it a taco. You say
I
want
call it both. I call it a sandwich. I don't care.
If you go to a restaurant,
She actually does call it a sandwich.
When you go to Taco Bell, what's on the menu? Is it taco or is it sandwich?
I don't eat Taco Bell. I don't eat Mexican. This is my thing.
Is pizza a sandwich?
Yes, if it's
No,
folded.
it's called pizza. It's not called sandwich.
But
Like,
calzones are folded pizzas, and that's a sandwich. You can eat it while
it's
playing
a calzone.
cards.
Turns out words matter, as it turns out.
Oh.
There's like a meatball sandwich, a roast beef sandwich, a peanut butter and jelly sandwiches are all sandwich because sandwich is in the name. Tacos, no sandwich in the name. It's a taco.
So is it contingent on the bread? Is that the problem?
No.
Or is it contingent specifically on the language?
I think it's okay. So if I really want to answer your question, I would say what I consider to be sandwiches have a fairly consistent flavor profile. Right?
Okay.
Like there are certain consistencies. There's a bread of some kind, right? Whereas and every bite of a sandwich is kind of more or less tastes the same, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas untrue, like if you fold a pizza or you have a taco, that is like, I don't think that's true anymore. So that's like, if I'm really answering your question, I think that's why. And also, this is just like one of these ridiculous internet arguments that just exist to make people angry. Like, you don't actually think a taco is a sandwich. You're just being difficult right now.
I mean, if you look at it
Tegan.
objectively,
No, Tegan.
it's bread and meat and cheese and some kind of vegetable, potentially, and some sort of sauce that you can hold in one hand and eat. It's a sandwich.
Listen, at the end of the day, this is one of these situations where you can live your life one way and I can live my life another way, and we can both be happy.
Absolutely.
And if you want to live your life deluding yourself into thinking tacos are sandwiches, there's absolutely nothing I can do about that. So I applaud your efforts. Live your life. I mean, it's like saying, like, is ramen soup?
Yes, ramen is soup. Ramen is very fancy, sort of like chicken noodle soup, but different.
But it's like a more specific. It's like ramen is soup, but soup is not ramen, right? And therefore,
chicken noodle soup could be ramen.
No,
noodles, meat, vegetables sounds like ramen.
No, I think I understand. Like, Mr. Lang is actually arguing from the position of a traditional purist, that there is a certain organization and, well, I guess, profile that defines a sandwich.
like there's a specificity to taco, right? Like
Right.
if you're looking at like again, like, okay, maybe you could say tacos are sandwiches, but sandwiches aren't tacos, right? Like it's not a double trailer. Whereas if I can say, is a roast beef sandwich the same as like a peanut butter sandwich, or like vice, they're both sandwiches clearly. If you can't point both ways at each other and say, yeah, they're both the same thing, I don't think they're the same thing. Whereas you're looking at it as more like a hierarchy. Like a taco is a very specific sandwich, but it's under sandwich in the hierarchy. So like its parent is sandwich, so that almost makes it a sandwich. I don't think food works like that. I reject that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's similar to the all bandanas are hats, not all hats are bandanas.
Correct. And it comes down to like you can I believe, like, can you call a sandwich a taco? Correct. You could. But you're not using the most specific language when you do so, so why bother? Right? Like if you say, yeah, like I'm wearing a hat. It's like, oh no, well, it's a bandana. Why don't you just call it a bandana? Because it's a hat, asshole. Ha ha ha, gotcha. It's like, well, no, but it's not specific to do it that way, right? So, like, you should always use the most specific language possible, I guess I feel.
It conveys less information.
Yes. It's like intentionally obfuscating for whatever reason, for reasons that remain unclear to me, it intentionally obfuscates what it actually is.
Okay. No, I definitely get that.
I feel like I convinced everybody.
Well, thanks for hanging out, man.
No problem, man. It was fun.
Yeah, no, we're. I think that everybody here is stoked for Extinction. I think we're all getting it. I think we're going to give away a couple copies.
Yeah, well, if you want, I can probably get you a couple copies to give away on the show if you want.
Oh, cool! Thank you.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're totally stoked. Where can for like the one for the one motherfucker who listens to this show in Oklahoma, because I like pour over our map of downloads every week.
Sure.
For the
Yes,
one
Oklahoma.
guy in Oklahoma who's like here every week, on the off chance that he has never heard of you, where can he find more of your stuff?
My Twitter handle is Joseph J. Brony. The Iron Galaxy is at I to the G on Twitter. Extinction is coming out April 10th on PS4, Xbox One, and Steam. It's coming out digital as well as retail. You know, if you are into fighting games, check out Killer Instinct Season 2 or 3. We worked on those. Yeah, that's the, I got Team GFB Radio is a podcast I do with Daryl, where a guy I work with and a friend of mine. We talk about a lot of different things, game development, video games we're playing, travel stuff. I'm a Fix Wolves. Still isn't on iTunes because I'm lazy, but go to imafixwolves.com for the archives there. That's that hip-hop podcast we were talking about. And, yeah, that's the gist of it.
Man, it just occurred to me that since the thing that Extinction is getting a Steam release, like, I don't think I've seen the min specs yet for the PC version.
It's super low.
Yeah, oh, God. Oh, Rocky, this means I'm going to be playing this thing on my GPD Win. I'm still going to be playing this game on the go. It's hype. It's on.
Yeah, at work I have a GTX 670 in the office, and the game runs at 60 on that. It runs really, really well on PCs. The PC version's great. Like, so I play it at home. I have like one of those 2560 by 1440 monitors at home, and 980 Ti, and then we just you can turn off the capping of the frame rate, and that is like Italian chef kisses fingers. It's really good.
Oh, super good. So the prospect of playing this thing on the size of a 3DS XL is super tempting. Apparently I'm going to double dip. Awesome. All right. A+. Everybody who's listening, you know the spiel. You hear it from us every week. Leave us a review on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. You know iTunes is the priority. That's where half of you people live. We don't ask much of you. You leave that iTunes review, you get the buttered biscuit from me. We'll work out the logistics later.
Yeah, it's not hard, also. Like, leaving a review isn't hard. Just open up your Mac and just leave a fucking review. It's not hard.
You don't even have to own a fucking Mac. You can literally do it from the web client for iTunes. It is not hard. It's real. Our music is by Big Soch. He's available on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/Big SochNJ. Follow him on Twitter at Hillary_Swank. Hang out with us on Mondays for Monster Hunter Mondays with Rocky. Where he destroys various community leaders of the monster community because he's a bad person. If you're not into that kind of trash, you can follow me on Friday on Twitch for Final Fight Friday. because I like to play 30-year-old arcade games because I'm a bad person. Our Discord is real. Hang out with us. And I think that's just about everything. I've been Brian Cartwright.
I'm Tegan Somerset.
And I'm Rocky Hardy.
Peace.
Bye.
Later.
We didn't say bye to Dave Lang. We're horrible people.
Goodbye.